Hey, I'm Zeb,
And I'm Maddie.
and welcome to the We Don't Know Yet podcast. Whilst both Maddie and I are healthcare practitioners, we understand that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare. Should you require any medical attention, please seek out your local healthcare practitioner.
We're on.
Take two. We're
Take
back.
two.
Take two.
Different environment as well. It looks a lot better.
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
really good.
It's a little bit exciting. We will have to give a little bit of a disclaimer that we're pretty excited to have you in the studio today because we're in an actual studio compared to last time where we actually tried to film outside. But we're gonna keep talking about the last time we tried to film to a real minimum.
Oh, yeah.
Maddie and I are both a little bit scarred from the whole scenario.
It didn't happen. I'm here.
Yeah.
I've just rocked up.
Yeah.
What
What
last
other
episode?
time?
This is the first time we're all meeting.
No,
how
thanks for
are you?
coming back.
We'd like to take a break from today's episode to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Drip Digital. They manage all of our audio and video editing as well as our social media marketing. Without them, the We Don't Know Yet podcast wouldn't be possible. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's really cool to be in this space for the first time.
I know. These are the first bums that these couches have touched, guys. I'm very excited to be here. For those that are just tuning in and are noticing that we're in a different context or different environment, I feel like my words aren't wording today.
Love that.
We're at the Grey Studio. So this is now where we're going to be filming all our potty episodes and we're pumped.
Yeah,
Awesome.
super psyched.
Yes.
Good space, nice and spacious. Unfortunately, no more birds chirping in the background.
Yeah. Or neighbours watering their plants.
Yeah. We've had neighbouring watering plants, neighbours hanging out washing. We've had it all.
To be fair, I feel like it served its purpose for when we were just starting, but now we're moving on up in the world.
Yeah,
It's
we're moving.
fine.
We're moving on up. That's
It's
Had a
fine.
Frenchie last time roaming around.
Oh, I forgot when we
Arnie.
had all the puppies.
Did Zeb tell you
I
the
don't even
story
think I
about?
told you about what happened.
Oh my
What do
god!
you mean?
Because I think we filmed on the Monday originally.
Yeah.
And then that was like the first day that we were around with the dogs. So you remember last time how we were talking about ice baths?
Yep.
Mate, I set up this brand new portable ice bath that I'd gotten for Christmas.
Yeah.
And we had it set up on the deck out the back.
Yeah.
And Arnie,
Oh no.
we think it was Arnie.
Arnie was, by the way, a dog that Zeb was house sitting. One of
Yeah.
his mate's dogs.
Yeah. And he was outside for the day with the ice bath. Left home, no hole in the side of the ice bath.
Oh.
Came home, hole in the side of the ice bath.
Gone.
So we're convinced that the ice bath was
Really
Arnie's
damaged.
first
Pretty,
victim. Yeah.
that's a pretty solid effort because they've
I
made
know.
like
And
They're
for such
thick,
a
man.
little
Thick
dog.
and-
They're thick.
tough
I don't
material.
quite think it got through the inside layer. Like
just
I,
enough to
yeah,
puncture
I
it.
think it was just the outside layer. But at the same time, when you look at it from the outside and you just think it's probably not going to have very long left in it, you know.
But hang
That's
on.
better than what I was thinking in my head. I was like,
Like full way
don't tell
through.
me the dog jumped into the ice
Oh
bath.
no!
Oh my
Like
gosh,
full
that would have been a
ice.
disaster.
She's a dogsicle now.
All right, so I've got an update with the story.
Yeah.
So the ice bath, such a great idea, really good intentions. I thought I was going to be saving so much money by getting an ice bath at home.
Yeah.
And as we were talking about just before this, I've loved going to one of those places where you kind of bounce in between the sauna and the ice bath. So I'm paying money to go into this place now. Anyway, I filled the ice bath up for the first time ever the week after we had the dogs because I didn't put it back out after I got the second ice bath. But it costs like $40 to fill up an ice bath
Does it?
of
With
that
ice
size
bags?
with ice. Yeah.
Really?
How
So
many
like-
ice bags are you getting?
I put 2 in there, right? 2
Ah,
ice
you need
bags
like
in
a-
there. It was like
more.
$10 for 2 bags.
Wow.
And then what we kind of realized was that the moment you put the ice in the ice bath,
It melts.
it just melts straight away.
Yeah.
Funny
You
that.
need like 4 to 6 bags for a solid session.
That's exactly
That's an
what we thought.
expensive ice bath. I feel like you should just invite all your friends around, get them to chip in $5 or $10, and then make
Well,
the
see,
most
that's
of it.
that's the conclusion that we've kind of come to now. So the decision we made was, even though like the intention was to use it by ourselves,
Yeah.
we can just use it now if friends want to come around.
Yeah, that'd be
Which is
good.
kinda
I'd
cool.
happily pay $5 or $10. It's
Yeah.
cheaper than going to like a recovery place.
Yeah, well, I mean, the hardest thing is when I'm by myself, it's probably not cost effective. But
Yeah.
when the friends come around, yeah, it's great. You can get everyone in, everyone out. It kind of works really well. So.
Yeah.
But it just depends. But anyway, ice baths aside, I'm still yet to come to a conclusion on whether or not it's just worth paying the money and going to one or
I
whether or
can't
not.
stand them. Hey, do you do them?
I've only done it once.
Yeah.
How'd you go? How long did you stay in for?
So we did, I think 3-minute rounds, me and my mate, and we did like 3 times.
Oh
I
my
think.
goodness.
So we did a solid.
That's
amount.
pretty good. I feel like they say you're meant to kind of stay in there for like 3 minutes.
I
at a
struggle
time.
to
Yeah,
get
3
to
minutes.
30 seconds. I watch 30 seconds countdown. I'm like shaking, and then as soon as I get out, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things you really have to warm up to a little bit. You can't just get used to it straight away.
Oh,
it's like, you probably got to give it a few cracks before you actually.
Yeah, you
You
can build
can't
up to
take
it.
the plunge.
Yeah. But I feel like we kind of dove straight in there without actually introducing you.
We just did the
properly.
banter.
We just did the banter
just did
before
the
the
banter.
introduction.
Yes.
But we're gonna come back to the banter. Let's
Yeah.
actually just get you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Our very first podcast guest in the new studio. So exciting.
Hello, welcome. I'm really welcome.
Welcome yourself.
Hi, I'm Vu. So I'm here. You guys have invited me. Thanks for that. I'm a Olympic weightlifting coach. I've been in fitness as a coach and trainer for over 10 years now. I specialize in Olympic weightlifting. Last couple of years, I've kind of dived into boxing a bit as well, but just general strength and conditioning. Done all the PT stuff, the group fitness, and all of that. But just general passion for the fitness lifestyle. I would say movement in general. I suppose I like talking about fitness in the terms of movement, or just getting moving.
Yeah.
I love
Finding
that.
a choice of movement
Yeah.
as opposed to fitness or needing to be fit per
Yep.
se. It's just like just get moving.
Yeah, which is a big thing. And I know last time we spoke down, we started kind of talking about, that aspect of things, getting people moving and just getting them to find something they really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So it's awesome that you're kind of just really about that whole aspect of
Yeah.
getting people involved in some sort of physical activity.
All movement's good movement.
Yeah, because I mean, people might do jiu-jitsu and they're not like really talking about, oh, this is my fitness, but that's fitness for them.
Yeah.
So it's movement really.
Yeah.
It's whatever choice
Nice.
you find.
Unreal. And so what got you into kind of that space? Is there a bit of an origin story that goes behind it? Or?
The origin story.
Yeah.
Nothing evil though, but actually the evils, I guess, boss would have been like bodybuilding, I guess. Because I grew up just like yourself playing basketball.
Yeah.
Being like
yeah.
a tall, lean kind of dude. I'm a tall, lean Asian. So for out of the vets in my area, I was like the tallest.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, okay, you're
Basketball,
playing, you're gonna play
heading straight
basketball,
in.
not other stuff. So I grew up really loving basketball as my passion and being into being athletic. So I guess once I finished high school, naturally as a guy, I kind of like tried to go to the gym and do weights. But I was like a bit like, just it was just boring for me, I guess. I was not like someone who put on like size and like it was just not geared towards me. I didn't enjoy, I guess, the bodybuilding side of things. So then I saw this thing pop up online called CrossFit, and it was like, looked really interesting. It was like more athletic. It was a bit more like competitive. It seemed like there was like team kind of aspects to it. And so I went to try that, and that kind of sent me down the more functional type strength and conditioning. And then that's when I got into Olympic weightlifting as well, because that introduced those movements to me.
Amazing.
So it kind of like fed my desire to be more sporty and athletic in what I did because of basketball, essentially.
Yeah, great.
So
And is there a crossover? This might sound like a dumb question, but is there a crossover between CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting? Like, is there one that normally precedes the other, or?
So Olympic weightlifting is a sport, obviously, that has been competed in and done in the Olympics for well before CrossFit came into play. CrossFit just used the movements in their kind of their training.
Yeah,
so they
like
use cardio machines, they use running, they use gymnastic movements, and they use Olympic weightlifting as different forms of working out for them, as opposed to just like Olympic weightlifting by itself is just competing for the most weight lifted for 1 rep.
Right, okay.
At the Olympics on a platform, just by itself.
Yeah,
but
gotcha.
CrossFitters use it.
It all
to
works
mix
out
it
within
in.
within the workout.
Differently,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Weave it in.
So, I mean, they still record like a 1RM for those lifts, but they use it in different varieties as well.
Unreal.
Just making it more fun,
Yeah.
I guess, interesting.
Yeah, cool.
And how have you found the impact on your own personal health and wealth? Health and wealth. health and wellness
Health and
journey.
wealth.
Yeah, health and wellness journey, getting into something like CrossFit. Like, there's, and I mean, we're going to cover all the different aspects of it later on down the line. But like for you personally, what have you really valued, gotten out of actually getting into the CrossFit space?
I mean, well, for me, I discovered it just for myself to train, personally.
Yeah.
And then that ultimately set me down the path of becoming a trainer and a coach. So that's, I guess, the biggest impact that it's had is it gave me the pathway to discover this passion for something that ultimately led to me, becoming a coach, doing what I needed to do with the courses and learning to help and impact people the way it helped me, I guess.
Yeah, and then so if we're discussing origin stories, I feel like we have to talk about the origin story of some of the merch that we're repping today.
Yeah,
awesome. So what was where did the kind of brand come from as well? Because you own your own brand called Sensei & Co.
Yeah, awesome. So I've got a brand called Sensei & Co. I've just kind of like used the name that I kind of used for myself with my weightlifting page, which is Snatch Sensei. So I kind of used that name a bit for the brand. And initially it was just a very like little side hobby thing where I just wanted to make stuff that I wanted to wear that was, I guess, more geared towards strength kind of training and also the mindset around getting stronger and empowering people through that. Because in CrossFit, they're big on the merch and repping the gear, but it's a lot of fitness-based stuff. So like, being super fit, run clubs, burpees, all that. And I just want stuff to be like I'm a weightlifter.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like a casual spin on active wear kind of thing.
Yeah. And initially it was just like small batches just to sell to people and mates at the gym, but slowly that's gone from a hobby to like something that I'm trying to push and grow and get out there to the people.
Unreal. Which is pretty sick. We've seen a bit of it. You kindly donated a couple pairs of socks to us. Maddie's partner Jack's already stolen her pair of socks.
He did. I was telling Vu off air that my partner Jack stole the pair of socks that Zeb's wearing because he's like, I like them, I'm going to take them. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I that was good that you told me that because I was like, I saw like a running selfie photo of you on the stories, Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, where's the socks that I gave her? She's
Where are
not
they?
wearing
Gone
them.
missing. She's not.
I
wearing
do
them.
love them.
I've seen Zeb wear them, but she's
I
not
love
wearing them. I'm like,
these
she doesn't
socks.
like my she doesn't like my socks.
No,
but
I
it
love
explains
them. I managed to get a few wears in, and then he found them in the wash. He's like, I'm taking these. I was like, oh gosh. On that note as well, like, have you ever seen? So obviously started out with you and your mates, like handing out your merch to your mates. Have you ever seen anyone in the street that you actually don't know wearing it? Like that would be such a cool moment.
Yeah, I do all the time, but it's more I get. The really cool thing is getting messages from people that I know that tell me, oh, I've just like seen like someone that I don't know wearing your socks in the supermarket or
that's pretty
like
cool.
on a hike in the Blue Mountains I got recently.
Yeah.
And then one time I was just at like a cafe and someone like came up to me and I was like just waiting to order coffee and she was like, are you Vu? And I'm like,
my
yes.
gosh.
I'm like, oh, you're like the guy that does this brand. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I didn't know how to like respond to that because it was just someone that
It's a bit overwhelming, isn't it?
Fangirling.
Just like,
thank you.
She wasn't fangirling. She was just like, oh, I know you like from that. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just need to order my coffee.
Yeah.
I haven't woken up yet.
Oh, that's
nice.
awesome.
No, so it's pretty cool. It's always cool for me to see people wearing the stuff. Whether we get to a certain point or not with our goals, it's still really cool to experience, I think.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that kind of later because I think it's really important to talk about in terms of like culture and networking within the space too.
Yeah.
But maybe let's strip it all the way back to getting a little bit more of an idea about CrossFit because I think it's it's not a controversial topic. We spoke about it last time in a sense that you were kind of like, oh, I wasn't aware there was such a stigma to it.
It depends who you
still.
ask now.
Yeah.
But sometimes there is a little bit of a stigma that people find with CrossFit, and it's I find it a conflicting stigma because I'm kind of like, what do you mean you shouldn't do some sort of movement? But it is something that does pop up here and there.
Yeah.
And I think we were saying back in the day when it was first starting out, it got really heavily scrutinized.
Yes.
But Olympic lifting is lifting that a lot of people are doing these days. Even if you're just a normal gym goer going to a 24/7 gym, you still see people doing a lot of the Olympic lifting style
They're
stuff.
one RMs rather.
Yeah. And it's like one of those things where I think, it gets a really bad rap when it, you put the label CrossFit on it. So
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about CrossFit and your understanding of it from like a coaching perspective now as well. So give us a little bit of a breakdown of what it usually entails, and then and then we can kind of break it down from there.
Yeah. So I think CrossFit, obviously, when it first jumped onto the scene, I guess it was quite polarizing because it grew in popularity quite quickly, blew up, obviously, and it involves quite a range of complex movements, and so that's where I guess it got a bit of criticism, because it was like, oh, like you're doing all these things, and obviously when things are quite a little bit more advanced, there's that room for risk, I guess, for most people from the outside in. So it was easy, I guess, to look at CrossFit and pick at it as maybe unsafe, for lack of a better term. But I think since then, the maturity of CrossFit being around has really grown in terms of like the coaching and the knowledge within the space for all those complex movements. So it's really advanced in terms of how deep the coaching and awareness of the program is, in terms of, like just managing each person within the training session for the movements based on them. And that's the main thing in safety, and that should be the case in general in coaching.
Absolutely.
Outside of CrossFit, looking after people based on where they're at, in skill and experience.
Yeah, and we were talking about the fact that people think it's just like, right, you rock up to a CrossFit class and you have to immediately know how to do all the Olympic lifts, and you need to be able to throw 60 kilos overhead, and people have this warped perception of what it's actually like to go and do a CrossFit class.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, you guys break it down beginner, like there's different levels of people integrating into the CrossFit space as well. Hey?
Yeah, and the coach's role in CrossFit, because it is quite heavily coached in CrossFit, I guess, compared to, I would say, other programs where it's like you kind of like just set and forget the workout and the coach is just roaming and cheerleading. The coach's role in CrossFit is very hands-on in terms of managing the range of who's partaking and where they need to step in to manage that. The main things would be load, volume, and intensity, as well as their experience in technique.
Yeah.
So just scaling things back as needed based on that. That's a big thing. Yeah. And I think that's, people need to try like CrossFit classes for like a week to really get that understanding, because people are seeing what's out there, which is like CrossFit athletes that have experience doing things with intensity and weight that are scary, because they wouldn't know how to do it when they come in. But it's like, you're not going to do that when you come in.
Yeah, well, it would be much the same as like seeing a professional runner on social media doing some crazy time. Like a beginner runner is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Nor is a beginner CrossFitter not going to be able to throw 60 kilos overhead.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't think like you would need to sustain like those crazy marathon times that you're seeing now.
Yeah.
Just from running.
What was it? Ned Brockman's one the other day. Slight tangent. It was like 10 kilometers. I almost said 10 kilos then. It was like a 4-minute 30 or something ridiculous pace the whole way. I was like, it's insane. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like you look at
some of these times.
The professional like marathon runners, they're running like 2-hour marathons.
Yeah.
And then I just have flashbacks to talking to Maddie at like 3 hours and 43 into her marathon, and she's like in tears
down my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of those times you look at it and you're like, you actually try and do that pace, and it's like you can only go for like a K.
Yeah, I remember seeing something, and Elliot Kipchoge, I've probably said his name wrong.
Oh, is that the fastest guy?
Yeah. He was the guy who I actually can't remember whether or not he just got beat recently, but I can't remember whether he still holds the record for the fastest marathon. But someone set a treadmill up somewhere, and they had the treadmill going at his pace.
I've seen this one,
And they put people on the treadmill and made them run at how fast he run.
And
Yeah,
they'll run
for
on
like
the
a short
short
bit.
flight
They're
off.
sprinting, and
That's
I'm just
insane.
like, oh, God.
Actually, I want to correct myself in case on the odd chance Ned Brockman does listen to this. I'm pretty sure it was like 3 minutes 30. 4 minutes 30 in hindsight is
Whoa.
not that. Like it's
quick.
impressive,
Yeah.
but it's not like,
People
oh my God.
out there
It was
doing it, yeah.
3 minutes 30-ish, something
for
around there.
10Ks.
For 10Ks.
Who's this?
Ned Brockman, he was the guy that ran from WA to Bondi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fast
Yeah.
guy. It was like the other day, yesterday or the day before.
Okay, he's
Insane.
moving. He's
Yeah.
always moving.
So Ned, if you're listening, sorry
I
about
think
that, mate.
we're going through a age of the running time flex on social media.
Oh,
We
Like
actually-
dropping the pace
Yeah.
I know.
on
Subtle-
socials.
Subtle plug here. We actually sat with Luke Murfitt around. He's one of the S&C coaches around the area here, but we spoke about how Strava is the new social
the new
media
dating
page
app.
for
Big one.
runners.
Oh my God, the amount of my friends who have like found their partners or like chatted to guys from Strava. I'm like, it's the new
Crazy.
Tinder.
Tinder.
Yeah,
The
coming
new
from
Tinder.
weightlifting, it used to be the thing where it's like posting up your squat or your lift, like when you've got a big number.
Slide into the
But now
DMs.
it's like the running pace.
I love that. We did take a
changed.
slight tangent there, so apologies.
To bring it back to your name though, so the name that, and like this is going to go into a little bit of a discussion about some form stuff, but so Snatch Sensei.
Yeah.
Very cool
Is
name.
that your like favorite lift, or did that just happen to be like a
So
movement that you actually really enjoyed and you were like, yeah,
It's a little bit of everything. So I was training in CrossFit, and then I got kind of into the weightlifting side specifically,
Yeah.
and I started training to compete, which I did compete several years in Olympic weightlifting only. So I kind of
nice.
from CrossFit, I was like, okay, I really like the snatch and the clean and jerk,
Yeah.
and getting strong and learning how to get good at these techniques, because I just think they're really like kind of like they're technical movements, but they're quite like beautiful as well if you spend the time to get good at them. Like if you do like, because the snatch is really fast but very technical as well.
Yeah.
But if you do like, if you watch videos on YouTube of Olympic weightlifters lifting these crazy weights in the snatch, and they put it in like slow motion with like epic music, it's just like beautiful.
I was
So-
gonna
It's like,
say,
it's
I've
like
even seen-
poetry.
Yeah. Well, I've
Yeah,
even
it
seen
is.
your posts
Magical.
on social media, and they're very impressive. I'm like, oh my God. It's just like so quick.
Yeah, I don't look like much, but I can do it because I spent time practicing it. So yeah, I kind of got into Olympic weightlifting specifically, and through that journey, I then also was able to specialize as a coach in it from learning how to get good at it.
Yeah.
And then so I started to start to coach people in snatching and clean and jerk, and I naturally like was better at the snatch to begin with, and I liked it more. Like basically, I really got into snatching, and that also came through my coaching. So a bit of the two, I guess, as a combination where people started to give me that nickname within like the little gyms that I was at,
Nice.
and
So-
also because I was in like not being racist, but I was in like Caucasian kind of based gyms, and they were like, "Oh, Snatch Sensei," because I was Asian.
Oh,
So
okay.
they
That's not
kinda
racist.
added the sensei thing in.
They just added it,
'Cause
and
I
you
was
kind of
like
stuck.
this stoic kind of like guy who like helped them with their snatching.
Yeah. Now it's your identity.
So
The
it was
snatch
like
Sensei.
It's
Snatch
just
Sensei.
a cool
Yeah.
name.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
liked
very
it.
memorable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
So like CrossFit wise, I guess my question is, and again, it might seem a bit silly. Like let's say I sign up to a CrossFit gym. Every single day, if I go for 5 days of the week, is it gonna be whole body movements in each session, or do you do splits based on the muscle groups? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so this is the interesting thing about CrossFit, right? So CrossFit is essentially constantly varied functional movement as like a kind of like definition that they've given it. But constantly varied doesn't mean random.
Right.
So that was, I guess, a big it still is a big misconception of how CrossFit is. It's just like, oh, it's just like whatever every day. But
Right.
it's not like that. It's just varied. So within the format of a week, the CrossFit gym will choose to program different movements as a focus each day. So
Right.
there'll still be like a strength and skill focus each day, like a squat day, a pull day, a press day, a gymnastic skill day.
That's cool.
And then that'll be programmed over like a typical block of like 4 to 8 weeks. And that's usually like the first half of the session, strength or skill focused, with coaching and with, rest periods as well, and specific reps that progress over the weeks. And then the workout is where it's a bit more varied. So each day the workout is different. That's why they kind of froth the term workout of the day or WOD, because it's what's the workout of the day today when you head to the gym. So that's varied. But the aim is to have kind of like a solid variety through the week that you're hitting across those workouts. So there might be a shorter piece, there might be a longer piece. There'll be a day where it's more monostructural, which is just like just cardio and no like weights or impact. And then there'll be days where it's like involving lifting in the workouts.
Cool.
So it's varied, but it's not random, and it's still planned and programmed.
There's structure to it. Otherwise, I can imagine it's like injuries left, right, and center.
No, it's definitely programmed and intentional in how it's done. So I think people don't get that when they think of CrossFit, because it seems varied and it seems wild and all over the place, but it's not.
No, like, and I've never really had a bad perception of it, but like when I originally like used to think of CrossFit, I would just think like snatch, burpee, like pull up, deadlift, like just so not random. Well, random, but like
there's
in
a lot going
way.
on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, like real
and it is that.
peak fitness.
It is that, but
there's structure.
There's structure to it.
But
also, you know, when it gets to like that level of CrossFit, it's like for the most part, you know, you're seeing people that have experience in CrossFit do that.
Oh, it's cool.
It goes back to that point of, you know, if you're a beginner walking into the gym, you're
won't
going to
be
get
doing
comfortable
that.
with the basics before you go.
I'm just going to be like, look, instead of all the snatches here, you're just going to do like air squats. For this, we're just going to replace a whole bunch of things in regress. It's called scaling for us.
Nice.
So up or down based on who they
Regression.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, maybe we segue into now a little bit of discussion around what the community aspect of CrossFit looks like too, because I think this is a really important thing to cover and something that I think, like we were talking about before with the brand, is a big part of the CrossFit space as well. So maybe tell us a little bit about what the community aspect of things looks like too, because that's another big reason that people actually come in and start to do a lot.
Did you really do CrossFit if you didn't tell everyone that you do
I was
CrossFit?
about to say we've got to post it on socials or something,
100%.
right?
Everyone that does CrossFit like tells everyone that they're doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
I'm a CrossFitter.
Just so you know, I do CrossFit.
So I mean, with CrossFit definitely has a big community vibe in that sense, and you know, from the outside in, I get that it can be abrasive, where everyone's like, you know, a bit cultish in terms of like we do CrossFit, but I think it's not too bad now. But it's, you know, to your point, it's quite a bonus for people that didn't have, I guess, a consistent environment they could train in, that they felt like they belonged in. So that's a big part of, I guess, CrossFit. From my experience, is how welcoming the space is for people of all shapes and sizes and ages and experience levels, where they can come in, get coached, get help with their training, because some people just don't want to like train by themselves, or they don't know what to do. And you know, they're not trying to break any world records or get their, you know, certain performance.
They're just there to do their
things.
thing.
They're just there to train, like, just for health, which is for a lot of people, that's all they want. And CrossFit allows that because of the coaching in the community, where everyone's just supportive.
And the other side of that as well is that, you know, I think often a lot of the time we look at things like team sports, and it's a really nice community environment.
Yes.
We touched on it a little bit with running, but running can sometimes feel like a really individual thing. Tends to be something that you can do really collaboratively.
Yes.
And then I look at like people going to the gym, you go to your 24/7 gym, sometimes just you lifting weights, that's all it is.
Doing your own thing.
Whereas with the community side thing of CrossFit, you got motivation, you got teamwork, you got a whole different element of things that can be incorporated into that lifting space too.
That's what initially grabbed me, I guess, coming from the team sport environment with basketball. It was just like, something where like everyone's just pushing each other to be their best and cheering each other on. I was like, this feels like sport again. So it definitely, there's that level as well for people that were used to competitive sports, that they could really sink into and be like, let's try and get the best time for the workout today and like improve. And that's how that space is as well, aside from just being okay for people that are just general kind of pop and wanting to do it for their health and
Yeah.
just having a good safe space for that. So I think it's still the same in terms of how strong a community it can be.
Yeah. No, it's
Um,
great. And like even, as an adult, right? Like when we think about making new friends and meeting new people, we're kind of limited with our options.
Yeah.
Like it might be, most of the time it's going to have to be alcohol fueled. And if you're not into that, going to pubs and clubs and bars and things, like this seems like a really good outlet to do so.
Yeah, so it definitely helps people that
Yeah.
need to move away, I guess, from those kind of cultures and groups of friends potentially, and form new communities and friends that align with where they want to go in life.
Yeah, I think that's like a big thing as well. Some people really have that drive to exceed in the health and wellness space, and you know what? There's no better place to be than in a community that is going to really pump you up and promote that positive habit.
Yeah, and I think not that CrossFit is the one to create it or is the one to claim it, but because they've since day one had such a strong community focus for themselves, I see more kind of training programs come into the industry now that focus on community rather than it just being a class program where you just go in and you're a number for that session or a member and you leave. I think that's a bit more of a promotion factor now for most spaces.
Absolutely. And look, off the back of that, like obviously that's CrossFit more broadly. How have you, I guess, taken that from your experience of working in that CrossFit space and applied it to your own personal brand as well, like that big community element?
Yeah, so I mean, I work with a lot of, I guess, athletes and gym owners and people that, I've met through the CrossFit community to help grow what I'm doing with my brand in terms of getting out there, but just trying to, I guess, spread the messaging of like, what I'm doing with the brand and how to empower people and create a sense of community around what I do with that as well. Aside from it just being a brand, like I don't want it just to be like a brand with a logo, like, like your other brands that might be out there that are just like fashion brands. I want it to be like very like, oh, like I know these guys and like me personally, my business partner, they, people can see me in the space doing getting out there pretty much, coaching and being at comps and stuff like that. So
nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Nice, mate. Well, honestly, I think we've covered a lot today. I'm going to reiterate my strong point, which is that if you're in allied health and you're telling someone not to do CrossFit,
Think again.
oh man, it just makes my blood boil.
It's been insightful for both of us, like two very different health professions, hearing your experiences of CrossFit and I guess dismantling some of those myths that are circulating in our spaces.
And like we said, there's risk with anything we do in life. Hell, half my patients walk down the street and roll their ankle on the curb, let alone hurting themselves in a gym. Like a lot of the time when we talk about some of this stuff and it gets brought up in social media and a lot of those other places, I just sit there and think to myself, majority of the people I see aren't getting injured in a gym. They're getting injured outside the gym.
Way.
Yeah, it's like usually there's some other weird and wacky story that we can pin on. Their injuries. Versus them actually going to a place where they're trying to get involved in some physical activity and meet some people. So.
I mean, there's always going to be a risk to doing physical stuff, training and sport in general. I think. So it's hard to avoid that sort of stuff, but the benefits I think outweigh the risk.
Absolutely.
Of like how you can improve your strength and your health and your body, and just long-term life kind of expectancy, I guess.
And I mean, hell, like you're not sitting here saying CrossFit's the only way. We're not sitting here saying CrossFit's the only way. But like
movement
just having an understanding about what it actually is means that people can then go, it's not this big bad thing that everyone kind of perceives. It's a space where someone can go to just move and kind of express themselves. Or, we've spoken in the past about having exercise or movement as a space where you can express emotions, feelings. People use it as an outlet for so many different reasons. So,
for sure.
Yeah, I think just to re-emphasize your point, like that's my biggest thing in terms of like I'm not really trying to force people to do CrossFit.
Yeah.
It's just a space that I'm in. So where people that choose to dive into it, it's like, okay, cool. We'll look after you. We'll help you if you like this. But I think not bashing and judging other people for their choice of movement is the main thing. It's like
Yeah.
if they're doing something to better themselves, then so be it. It's like that should be a positive. It shouldn't matter what it is.
Love that. And that's like really in line with our philosophy as well. We're like, movement's movement. Doesn't really matter what you do. You could just go for a walk up the block and that's amazing.
It's like, cool. You don't have to do CrossFit.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, like if people want to know a little bit more about what you do, particularly in that space, where can they find you?
Basically on Instagram is where I do most of my stuff. So at snatch_sensei and the brand's at Sensei & Co.
We'll link all of them in the show notes.
Yeah. And operating out of CrossFit Marrickville.
CrossFit Marrickville, and also do some cool boxing classes at Hustle Boxing.
Nice.
Unt.
There you go. Hustle Boxing. Maddie was saying you went for a session at Hustle Boxing one time, didn't you?
Yeah, I was saying to Vu as well. In Bali, I've been looking up some like CrossFit and not CrossFit. What's the word? Kickboxing. And boxing classes.
Nice. There you go.
Yes.
Maddie's off in like 2 weeks.
I know. Excited.
How exciting.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again.
Yes, thank
Thanks
you
for having me.
again. The
Again.
big word again there.
First time, round 2.
Yeah. Second time's a charm.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, mate. And all the best.
Thank you. Speak to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast.
Be the first to know when the next episode drops by hitting subscribe on wherever you catch your podcasts.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at wedon'tknowyet.pod.
See ya.